Students are on their phones all the time. They love interacting, with digital media. I can barely type my own name. Well, like many of us, we were technicians. We didn't grow up with the tool. But now we're educators. Embracing the new tools and technologies is kind of critical for us to be successful.
People walk in and they see kids on their phones. The assumption isn't that they're checked out. It's that they're utilizing this as a new resource. Just like how, the HVAC ESCO classes, they're all available on mobile. European radio shows have replaced hosts with AI hosts. I can see that happening easily. I have an app right now where all you need to give it is 5 minutes of your natural speaking voice or a recording in which you spoke, and then say, okay, Mr. De Miranda, make this content in Russian. And they'll be speaking Russian, but they'll sound like me. So it keeps it authentic, and it also helps to kind of match the mouth movements a little bit better. But that's huge, because I think that sometimes when we're developing this content, especially for energy efficient technology and this stuff that's right on the cusp of the cutting edge, we're developing it, and the rest of the world is going to utilize this eventually too. European radio shows have replaced hosts with AI hosts. I can see that happening easily. I have an app right now where all you need to give it is 5 minutes of your natural speaking voice or a recording in which you spoke, and then say, okay, Mr. De Miranda, make this content in Russian. And they'll be speaking Russian, but they'll sound like me. So it keeps it authentic, and it also helps to kind of match the mouth movements a little bit better. But that's huge, because I think that sometimes when we're developing this content, especially for energy efficient technology and this stuff that's right on the cusp of the cutting edge, we're developing it, and the rest of the world is going to utilize this eventually too.
Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining us again on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. So this is going to be a follow-up. This is a part 2 to a conversation that David De Miranda. Thank you for joining us, sir.
Thanks for making time for me.
Absolutely. So David and I were diving into education and education techniques, right? Instructor techniques. A few weeks back, and we had HR. We're just finally getting to get caught up and go back through like that second half of where we were. Like, we had a slide deck. We're like, yeah, we don't have enough here to get through an hour. An hour later, like, holy cow, we only got through half of this. We've had so many questions and comments, and it was wonderful because we had a lot of people that were asking questions along the way, looking for resources, because we're all starting to realize that, we do have a responsibility to understand technology, understand tools that can help us in the classroom. And so we're here to help you for that. So we're going to dive into some of those. Tom, thanks for joining us today. And everyone that's out there, let us know where you're joining in from. We're grateful of the growth that we've seen from this channel. And every week we have a new variety of people that's joining, wanting to learn more, wanting to get better, whether it's technology, whether it is ways to better deliver content in the classroom. That's what we're here to provide for you. So, let's go ahead and kind of regroup where we left off, and we'll go through a few slides, and then we're going to start talking about some of the interactive content that DNR offers. It's now available through the HVACR Learning Network.
Yeah, absolutely. So we started talking about innovative training techniques. It's really just ways to amplify the content that you already have.
Yeah.
We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. We're really just trying to amplify what you already have.
Exactly.
With some simple techniques on how you can deliver it. And also, of course, some tools that you can use to really push that a little bit further. Last time we were focusing mostly on those adult teaching strategies, how to connect with the audience and use visuals. And, this time we're going to dive deep into a little bit of virtual reality, how to utilize that, and of course, some of the online trainings that we've developed.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's really been a shift in, what we see for like the VR and the augmented side. And a lot of instructors are like, man, I've seen my kids or I've seen my grandkids working with that. It's kind of interesting. I've seen it on games, but how do I use that in the classroom for education? And really, there's a lot of opportunity for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, we were talking a little bit about it earlier, but we're in a stat now where anything worth doing is worth capturing. Right?
Oh, 100%.
The media is almost as important as the act itself, especially, when we're talking about innovative technology and all this cutting edge technology, because some people are, they're just installing it for the first time or seeing it for the first time. So if you're doing something innovative, you're going to want to capture that
for your audience. But I think that's already kind of become the norm. People know to capture media wherever they go, but now we're amplifying it a little bit further. Instead of just a video, maybe we can show a little bit of an interactive. Maybe we could pause the video, ask some dynamic questions, just like what we're doing here.
Yeah, exactly. Put you in a space, right? Where are we? What is this thing that we're talking about? Is there a way that we can get a better visual of that, interact with for a little while, and then step back into the classroom and go, okay, tell me what you've seen. Tell me what you learned. Let's talk about those things that were a challenge for you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a way to engage with the younger crowd. It's a way to, amplify your content for all ages. And really, to me, it's just there's multiple ways to connect with the multiple intelligences. That's something we were touching on in part 1. If you missed out, definitely go back and check. And this is about creating a multi-dimensional educational sphere. So you want to give the learner every opportunity to learn in ways that are beneficial to them. And I really think that these virtual interactive tours do just that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can't go to a museum, a children's museum anywhere today without having some type of a virtual tour, to get an idea of what's happening in this area. It just comes standard with many of our tours today. So why wouldn't we want to utilize it to benefit us in the classroom?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm over here in Orlando, in the Orlando Museum of Art. They do that all the time now. Every art piece has a QR code next to it. And, they're not saying that the art is less than. It's in a museum. It's incredible. It's just a way to kind of push it a little bit further. And they've even had some, exhibits where the artwork is on a screen and the art itself changes and you can interact with it as well.
Really?
To, make it more engaging. And I really think that that's the next step. I think that textbooks, they're great. They're awesome. But even last year at your convention, I saw that there was, some folks that were creating amplified materials for your textbooks.
You bet.
Where you could pull out your phone while you're reading your book, scan a QR code, and it shows you a video about what they're talking about, or allows you gone are the days of just the 3 bold questions at the end. For your critical thinking, you really want to think critically, apply what you're learning to solve a problem.
And put some depth to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's really just a multitude of different ways that you can amplify your content, whether it's traditional, whether or not you're doing live instructional training, or if you're just crafting online scenarios for folks. So there's a lot of benefits of VR. That's what this slide's talking about here. You want to allow people to create these mimicry scenarios where maybe the stakes are a little lower. You can't actually get electrocuted if you make a mistake.
Yeah. And I want to go check out this 463 phase air handler. Where do I put my finger?
Sometimes it's just nice to be in a scenario where you're seeing everything, but there's no humming.
Yeah.
So you can actually think a little bit, and it really just helps to reinforce concepts, and it gives the learners a chance to, like we said earlier, absorb information from different perspectives, different dimensions that really kind of help to boost the content. I would like to dive into one of our interactive tours right now.
I think that'd be cool. Give them an idea of what we're expecting, because this is a different type of virtual experience. When I think of virtual, I think of digitized. Okay, this is similar to my environment, but that air conditioner is now just a cube and doesn't have that full feel. What you're doing is a whole different scenario.
Yeah, this is a little bit different. So what you're seeing right here is actually the landing page for the interactive itself. Okay. And it's really a blend of traditional media that you're you're used to seeing, and a little bit more of this, future tech. Like you said, some people, they think of VR and they think, really overwhelming 3-dimensional models that they have to interact with. This is more like when you saw the origin of video gaming, right? Where it was kind of choose your own adventure. You can click around and examine some things. I think I have my screen open here.
Yeah, you can. I think, can you run that for this one, or do I need to change screens?
Let's see. It says I'm sharing screen, but I'm not sure.
All right.
Oh, here you go. Yeah, I can see my screen up here.
Let me see. I had 2 of them. I bet it is this one.
Yep, there we go. It's hard to differentiate when they're both showing the landing page.
They look kind of similar over on my sidebar.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. And I'm going to
So
move
what
us
you
down a
see,
little bit so that people can get a better picture. Now, if we get in the way, I may bounce back and forth just a little bit depending on what's on screen here.
yeah, that should be great. So
Okay.
what you're looking at here is the central heat pump water heater overview. So this was created to kind of show the innovation of heat pump water heater technology from when we first got involved into it to modern day, and even show a little bit about, what's to come as well. So what I really like about these tours, these were created on a software called Articulate. It's
Oh, yeah.
basically the industry standard for creating interactives. And it's relatively affordable. There's different levels to it. So you can also get a free trial and experiment with a little bit if you're still, not sure if you're going to be able to pull it off. But to be honest, this is like an amplified PowerPoint. They make it very similar to tools that you've seen before. And that's kind of what we're trying to do too, is we want for the viewer to look like something they've seen before, but just a little bit more amplified. First, let's get a little bit into the system section here. So what you see here is that we broke down the heat pump water heater system into its major components. And from here, the viewer can examine whatever particular area they're interested in. So I'm going to start with the heat pump. And here you have your traditional information, right? Text, you can scroll through and read it. And then you also have your diagrams as well. And everything's, really simple to navigate, very, I think, organic navigation. And this is, of course, a little diagram. When you're done with it, just click, it disappears. And you can go to the next ones. This is, kind of showing the two different types of the heating cycles. And I really believe that these visuals help to amplify concepts that you can read and maybe not wrap your head around the first time.
Yeah.
And also what I really love is the video integration. It's right there, ready to go for you. I'm not sure if this is going to play the audio or not, but we don't.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Oh, you can hear it?
A little bit, yeah.
Heater just turned on, and you can see its discharge water temperature is climbing up to 140.
So this is where you start getting that live interaction. This is where you get to see what it looked like in an exact scenario. So this, of course, is a Colmac water heater in one of our installations that we captured 2 years ago. And he's explaining the main purpose of the heat pump system. Let's do a little bit more exploration. So, of course, we have our control systems and our storage systems as well. I think the controls is probably an aspect that's most different if you're used to, residential. Residential is it's kind of designed to be as similar to what people are used to already. And there's not as much of a need for these advanced control systems because, you're not running these massive buildings that have sometimes, in this instance, this was, Kalina Apartments has apartments. It also has shopping areas. It has a large parking structure. So, and also depending on where it is in the country, things really change depending on the weather shifts from one time to another. So, you really need these significant control systems in here. And this just really introductory stuff, still explaining the basics. This is meant to be kind of the first thing that you look at when you're exploring through these tours before you dive into some of the deeper stuff. Let's go back a little bit and show you one of our full in-depth tours. So if you go here to applications, what this shows you is just another way of breaking up that content. We talked a bit about it in the first session when we talked about making stuff digestible, right? You want to break down your information into small digestible bites so that it's easier to wrap your head around it. And also just later on for navigation, I'm looking at mid-high rise buildings as a contractor and I want to know what's been done already and some different options here. So here's a couple examples of different mid or high rise building applications that we've done recently, what we've captured recently. And I love this one right here for Bayview because this is actually the first instance of this system being installed here in the country. And this was a Mitsubishi QA/QC system that was designed by Stethis. And this is about as plug and play as you get. Right now, what you're looking at is actually the outside of the building. And you can see the navigation controls. It's just click and play. You might recognize that, in case anyone doesn't know where we're at. That probably gives it away for some folks. And I mean, from a media perspective, I couldn't ask for better than that. It tells you right there where we might be for this installation. And yeah, this is just a really nice system because you're able to retrofit some of the existing stuff as far as the storage tanks, but this whole system was just dropped right on a skid, ready to go. And what's nice about this is, this technology is still new. Not every single contractor is familiar with it.
Exactly.
So this provides, instead of having to engineer and customize every last aspect of your system, you can just get one system that's plug and play.
Yeah, Keith, you're right. This is what intrigued me about the way that DNR is introducing the technology. It's not like we're using CAD files to put it into a potential environment. This is actual installations that we're using, 3D photography to set the environment. And so that you have different applications for each component that are actual photos, actual installation components.
Yeah, so you just touched on a kind of important part of the technology is, this is captured using a three-dimensional camera. And it could be captured using a smartphone with apps as well. What it does is it creates what we call a mesh, where it, creates a three-dimensional environment using multiple images at once. And it really does a great job of putting them together seamlessly. So you can't tell where one picture started and one picture ended.
Yeah.
And for me, this is the significant value of this tour, because you can be in the room seeing the exact system. So like I said, this skid it's only been installed once at the time when we captured this. So this was really the first time to see it live in use. Everything's clearly labeled for you. The eyes are, of course, information. You can go in here and it tells you a little bit about the actual measurement and verification system for this particular section. This link even goes to live data if they have a system controller that is capturing live data. Yeah, so that's really neat as well. And then of course
you're importing data from the site, from the actual field site, into the software as we are walking through it.
Yeah, so it's really impressive, but it's a link to the online website, right? And the online website is automatically updated. It's Institute Shiny app.
It's all digital.
I'm not sure if it's going to load super quickly, but
sure,
it's really nice that it's in there.
Yeah, Tom was asking, are you using LiDAR assistance for any of that?
No, so that's another thing is LiDAR assistance, it's really required for the three-dimensional stuff, because that's how we kind of capture those, all those complex angles and then turn it into something that's three-dimensional. But no, there was no LiDAR assistance for this at all. It's really, for the impact that you get, it's entry level and it's not prohibited by cost at all. It costs as much more to travel there than it did as far as the technology. This entire thing was a GoPro, Adobe Photoshop for creating the mesh, because I like to remove things like our feet or the tripod if you can see it, little things like that. And then of course Articulate for the actual adding of the buttons and the interactivity to it. But no, you don't need anything like a significant, sophisticated LiDAR camera or anything like that. And what's really nice is that all the videos are embedded as well. So if you're reading about the heat exchanger loop, and it gives you another perspective here with the photograph, but if you want to, hear a little bit about the perspective of not just what it is, but how we're utilizing it, the settings, some of the challenges for the installation, you can click the videos. And we also like to integrate direct interviews. So Lester is one of our HVAC experts. You may have even seen it if you've gone to some of the events that the ESCO group has put on, because he's been at a few of the conventions with me. And, he goes and he travels, interviews some of these folks. We have a few interviewers as well. And this is one of the engineers that was part of the program. So you get that really in-depth information that you only could have got if you were there for the commissioning or the installation. So it's really useful tool to integrate. And
man, that is
in
crazy.
Here you can see that, I'd like to think it's pretty well, it's really organic and easy to navigate. It's intuitive is the word I was looking for. So here you see the controls, and naturally you're going to want to know a little bit more about them. This tells you how we're getting that live data, right? We're using those CTA 2045s. to capture all that information, and then you can actually use different softwares to capture that data. And this is incredibly important, not just to demonstrate. This seems like a demonstration of the technology, but also they're responsible for proving the efficiency of this equipment for at least a year, so that they can get their LEED certifications and their other certifications that you get for having such an efficient building, right? Yeah, it definitely keeps the file sizes down too. What's really nice about this is that most of this stuff's integrated. You don't need to have, I don't need to send you a 40 gigabyte file for this interactive. This interactive lives on our server, and all I need to send you is a link, and you have the same seamless control that we have. I'm actually using, you can tell right now, I'm just on a web browser. I'm not using, the file itself, just to show how it would work for you as well, right?
Yes.
I kind of have a sour spot for that in demonstration. Sometimes you see it and you're like, is this the fancier preloaded?
Are you playing a video?
Yeah.
It's a great point for everyone to understand, because we've looked at some different interactive technologies, some different VR technologies where you have to have, a proprietary computer in some instances to be able to have that in a classroom. And I know for myself, a lot of my classrooms that I've had in the past, I had testing centers where I had computers available for every student, or work areas where I had computers available for a variety of students. You have that opportunity to allow each one to walk through at their own pace in this same environment. But you could also even have this on your big screen in the classroom as the primary. Man, I'm getting a little creative as I'm thinking about this, with the ability to just embed individual components, learning components as well as visual components into that environment.
Absolutely. And you touched on something great, Clifton. We talked about a little bit in part one, was that if you want it to be approachable, you can't have it be limited by the technology that you need to utilize it or to absorb this information. You could have one VR headset and one person at a time having the full immersive experience, because you could use this on a VR headset and you don't need to click and drag. You just simply look around and it goes to where you want to go. Absolutely seamless on a VR headset. We'll have that demonstration available for everybody in Vegas come soon. So, come find our booth and we'll be demonstrating how to use it with the headset. But yeah, in a classroom that's maybe limited by the amount that you have, or you're limited by, your technology, you can have it on an iPad, you can have it on the screen, you can have people on their laptops, on their cell phones even. This works seamlessly on anything that can open up a browser. So that's really what we're most.
Hold on a minute. So I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what if I, to get started in my classroom, right? I want to start teaching some of the heat pump water heaters, which most of the interviews I did at HR was on this style of technology, because it is definitely the future of our industry. A lot of companies are looking at high performing heat pumps for replacing gas fired boilers and, air cooled chillers. And now we're looking at high performance heat pump scenarios, exactly like we're talking about in this modular unit. So this entire environment that we were seeing in that modular unit could literally be shipped to different manufacturers, different facilities around the country. And if we could teach this one modular unit, now everyone has the ability to engage with that. And if you have tablets in your classroom, which most of us already use tablets as well, you can actually run this from tablets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched on something great. We're really pushing for, and not just DNR, but overall the market is going towards these modular and these skid systems where it's simple plug and play. I think it's a little bit easier to prove the technology's usage, and also it's easier to adopt because you don't have to be a master engineer. You don't have to design the system top to bottom. You just need to understand its limitations, and what it's capable of. And like you said, it's a lot easier to, proliferate this information out to people because they can learn that one system and get that same one delivered right to their door. And this is, like I said, was a retrofit. So I also think that helps to kind of push the reality a little bit too, is, not in every instance are you going to replace every last thing, we need to be conscious of not just economics, but the environment, right? If you have some great storage tanks and you utilize them still, why not? Right. Sure. So there's really a lot that you can do with this. I want to bounce back here and
Yeah.
kind of a little bit more. So that was a really good example of one of those skid systems.
One example.
Yeah, that's just one. This is a modular system right here at Hope Workstation. And by by modular, what I mean is that you're able to get, these are the Senko 2 systems.
Oh, really?
Yeah, where
I've been
they're all
looking for one of those.
Let's get ourselves up onto the roof here. Let me go back to my portal page. So we have the site tour. We like to, that's what you saw a little bit of just now. We like to include a little bit of the actual building itself because it helps for the contractors, especially to get an idea. Oh, this looks just like mine. It has
I can drive by this building.
See? And now you know. And this shows you exactly how I got that fancy lead certification. This was one of the major aspects of it. You know, the bottom shows all the different players, whether or not it's Evan Green, you know, the engineer, or some of the stakeholders in the project itself.
Meet the people involved with this project.
Yeah, and then of course we have our system tour as well, and this shows you exactly where it is. And what I like too is you can't help but see all the other innovative technology that they have.
Yeah, I mean, this is real world scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, it's these, each one feeds 4 apartment buildings themselves, and they're all just what we call gang together, right?
Yeah.
And what's really nice about these systems too is, you know, they're very universal, and the technology's been around for a long time. These Senko 2 units have been, you know, popular overseas for a long time before they were popular here. So this is very tried and true.
Growing market. Yeah.
Yes,
the CO2 water heating scenario is just going to explode. Just at AHR, I've seen some manufacturers that I didn't anticipate going with CO2 water solutions, introducing them for this year. Senko's been around for quite a while, for those of you who don't know Senko, and I've been working with an educator in the industry, you know, building some curriculum to talk about CO2, and I didn't realize you were using the Senkos on this. This is phenomenal.
What's really nice, these are the Sandon pumps. I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same scenario, CO2.
Exactly. And what's really nice is, you know, you can, through the interactive, find videos where they explain exactly why they decided to go this route, and maybe some of the limitations and some of the design, you know, really major design aspects you have to kind of figure out for yourself when you're deciding to do this. Brian Kohler explains some of the issues, like, you know, do you get heat loss if you travel too far? So that's why you see that these are not just in one central location, but they're in different areas across the roof, so that they go directly to the area that they're feeding. That way you don't need to have, you know, heat sink tape or anything like that. You can really just go directly to where the user needs, you know, their hot water. You can see there's some more in the distance over here.
Right.
What's also phenomenal is, like you said, you drive past this building, doubt you've been able to see what it looks like up on the roof. And to me, and I'm sure you as well, that's kind of the most interesting area, is these different perspectives.
Everyone I go by, I go, wonder what's up there.
Yeah.
Some of them I'm fortunate to see, but to be able to actually see it, especially as a student, right? If we're learning about these products, I think about, you know, as an educator introducing, you know, CO2 water heaters or any type of heat pump water heating solutions. Most classrooms are going to be introducing these into the classroom over the next year or two. There's such a demand and an urgency for us to understand the technology that we have to start educating. But from the class perspective, I think about the instructor going, well, I've not seen one of these. I've been out of the field for a few years. It's a new piece of technology. Not even 100% sure what a good installation looks like. I need to introduce the technology. Now you can actually you go through it yourself, get comfortable with it. Because as I'm seeing this, I'm going, that's what I want to see, right? This is an actual installation of this technology that is functioning in its native environment.
Yeah, and you could learn. It depends on what you're interested in. You know, if you want to learn about the whole building and how they were able to get that net positive rating, you can dive into that area of the sustainability. Or if you're just trying to see, like you said, in actual usage, because you can easily have somebody send over a unit to your school, and you can, you know, disassemble it and see how the unit itself works. But how about how it's utilized and the decisions you need to make in that installation process? You know, and that's what this gets to really tackle, is that, like I said, the real experience, right? The reason why you don't get to be a master until you've been an apprentice and you've clocked those hours is because you can't just study these things. You need to be able to really get into them to see how they're utilized. And what's nice too is that we have multiple different usage cases. So we're seeing similar technology being utilized in different ways completely. So at the Kalina East Apartments, I know I see some people here having some weather conversations. This, it gets cold in some of these spots. So here they use an air buffer system by having it inside the parking structure, actually.
Okay.
So what you're seeing here, let's see if we can get a nice little view of it. Yeah, there we go. This is the actual, that's the view from the utility area of the parking structure. So you get that little bit of air buffer, right? So you're not so, there's not this heavy fluctuation depending on the weather outdoors because, no matter what, it's always going to be a little bit warmer inside of the parking structure itself. And you can see in this situation, because they wanted to use that air buffer zone, all of the units are in one spot. So now they have the challenge of, well, the water isn't right below you like it was on the roofs. Mm-hmm. So in this scenario, the learner gets to see a little bit about how they were able to capture, high quality performance for everybody while still getting, the efficiency that they wanted. And in this instance, they did need to address heat loss, with it traveling a further distance, and they had to engineer certain solutions for that. So that's what I really love about this, from my perspective. And I know how effective this stuff is because I came to this realm as an educator with very little HVAC experience, and everything I've learned through absorbing this stuff and then capturing it myself in the field.
Are you marketing these to contractors? Because if not, I'd like to help with that.
Yeah, I mean,
I haven't even thought about marketing these to contractors, but man,
absolutely, that's one of the major target audiences is the contractors. But it's always great to get more eyes on it. Like we said earlier, anything worth doing is worth capturing, and it's worth talking about, especially when our job isn't just to understand this stuff; it's to advocate for this stuff, right? So that's what we're trying to do here with this. I think this is a really great advocacy tool. It's not just a case study proving how it works. It's real use.
Well, Ty and I did a heat pump water heater. No, it wasn't Ty. It was Zenobio Aguilera and myself did one a while back talking about, particularly residential heat pump water heater solutions. And, we showed them in the classroom, what that could look like and did some education on them. But some of the comments, some of the emails that I got later on the video was, but what do these look like when they're actually installed? What is this new stuff going to look like when it's in the field? How much more space or less space does it actually take up? Well, that's really what we're doing is we're...
Yeah. Oh, and we definitely have residential ones too. We've done quite a few residential installations, some that are geared towards, contractors to kind of prove how it works and, the ease of a residential system. We always kind of tell people, get involved in residential installations first, get comfortable before, you dive deeper into something like a commercial installation as well. And then we have ones geared towards the DIY guy because, research actually shows that the do-it-yourself installer is more likely to embrace new technology than your contractors are actually. And a lot of that comes down to the fact that, time is money. You quote somebody a certain price, the longer you take to experiment with something new and learn, you might lose that profit. But if you're doing it yourself, there's not that pressure, right?
Yeah.
You want to make sure you're saving as much as possible as well, So there's just really a lot that you can do with these interactives to not just educate, but to also to, advocate for the technology. And I think it's really exciting, the technology that we're seeing now. And in the classroom, let's go back to the classroom a little bit too. If you're, a vocational teacher and, you're only given a certain amount of curriculum funding a year, or you have your textbooks and you have your professional experience, this is a great way to amplify that. One of these virtual interactives, you give it to somebody as homework and you can believe they're going to check this stuff out because it's engaging and it's fun. You tell someone to read 18 pages of of a very technical text and answer some questions and come back, you might be talking to half the room that's seen it the next week. But something like this is a little bit more engaging. And of course, we still have our traditional case studies and everything here. This is just kind of showing you that comparison. I wanted to look at this for a moment just to show you, I'm incredibly proud of these. I designed some of these myself, but in comparison, these seem so one-dimensional now after being able to physically explore through Bayview Tower and see how the stuff is working. So this is kind of what we used to do.
Yeah.
As far as this was all we had for case studies, and send these out to
a white sheet. Yep.
And now, we can accompany something like this where it's, here's the case study, but also here's the actual location itself, and then a little bit about the technology too. This tool section shows how we decide what works best in these scenarios and what doesn't. So the EcoSizer, this is, you can magnify the image or you can go directly to the website, but it tells you it's a free sizing tool that's provided for you that, you can utilize to kind of make sure that the system you're thinking about installing is going to work for you and maybe what you need, right? So are you going to utilize a swing tank? Are you going to use a parallel loop tank where, it comes through? Is it single pass? So on and so forth. And this allows you to see that. And of course, we always link out to our partners because we're trying to give people as much as they can to feel successful in their decision. So here you can design your custom load shape. You can type in your information and it gives you everything you need right there in the system. So like you said, this is a very comprehensive tool for a contractor because it has your use cases. It has the tools to decide whether or not it'll work in your scenario. And then this EcoSim is kind of similar. It's a performance model, a simulator that can show you what your average savings or energy use is going to be based on your climate. So you can type in your area and it can give you some information. And then of course we also have the Ecotope user manual. This shows you some information as well on how to use these evaluation tools. And then, if by now you're sold on it, right? You're like, oh, this is going to work for me. You can learn about the qualified product list. This is directly from NEA and the Advanced Hot Water Initiative. And it tells you what the lists are, right? Some of the products that we can use, residential all the way up. Because another thing is too, not everything that's commercial means that you need a massive commercial unit. You might be using multiple residential, systems inside a commercial scenario because you have condominiums or something like that. Mm-hmm. So this shows you just depending on what you want for your market delivery, system design, so on and so forth. And this is a nice, easy to digest visual, but it doesn't get updated live. Things like this do. They go regularly. And you could go in there and examine exactly what it is that would be successful or useful for your scenario. And then, of course, because we like to make it as multidimensional as possible, there's videos there as well that show you some conversations about the different qualified products and highlighting the variety of all the different hot water solutions that are available out there for you. I love this little section. It shows you just how simple it was. They craned it right in, dropped it, and in a couple hours they were testing the system. Really exciting stuff.
I'm incredibly excited about this. I had went through the interactive side on my PC, going through the interior of the simulation. I didn't spend enough time going into all of the resources for this module. This is insane how many additional resources here that I wasn't aware of. And Keith, the reason that I'm so excited about these, now I was actually confronted by one of our viewers at the AHR Expo going, aren't you tired of talking about heat pumps yet? I mean, you're kind of beating the dead horse on. No, I am not, because most of the industry doesn't realize where we're going with heat pump solutions. So Keith, this is a fantastic question, right? So we have a heat pump. Is it for water or for HVAC? Both at the same time. As we start moving into air to water solutions, even in residential, we are going to start utilizing this technology for our solutions in industrial, commercial, and residential, right? Here's a prime example. when you look at these storage tanks, we're using these for domestic water. We're also using these for the loops within our building that used to be a boiler loop, right? And in some cases, we may have a parallel system or a series system that has our heated water coming from our heat pump and then supplemented by an additional gas-fired appliance to heater to be able to raise the water temperature up, especially in those colder climates. But as we start looking at solutions for refrigerant and our GWP schedule starts getting closer and closer to that 2036 deadline, we have to find solutions. And our primary solution at the moment is focusing on low GWP air to water heat pump solutions for all of these applications. And like that one, we're using CO2. We're just a short period of time away from seeing R290 air to water residential heat pumps and even in commercial applications. So that's the transitions that we're going to see going forward. We always like to talk about what's coming to our industry to help you be prepared. This is it. If you currently do not have an air to water heat pump in your curriculum and in your training, you should be budgeting for that in the very near future, because that is the way our entire industry is starting to go. So, man, this is a phenomenal tool, not just for teaching it, but the actual application and decisions along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a little bit about it at AHR. I sat through a few of your live podcast tapings, and they were talking about how to utilize every aspect of the technology. So not just if you're utilizing the heat pump water heater to pump, to heat your water, well, you can use the exhaust to also, cool an area. We were talking a little bit about how in agriculture, especially because, the name of the game is profits. How can you, be as efficient as possible so that you can generate as much profit? It's very much a game of sense, pennies that add up. We captured a dairy recently, the Webb Basin Dairy, and they're utilizing heat pump water heater technology to heat their water. And even if the water doesn't get necessarily to the maximum temperature you need for sanitizing, still gets you most of the way, and at a much more efficient, efficient energy savings, of course. And then you can utilize some of the exhaust. Maybe you could make a room a little bit more comfortable. And I see it also at AHR, we saw it for servers, right? How do we pull the warm water that's being created, by all of these water pumps that you need for these data farms? And data farms are exploding, of course, with the, as technology's growing and the internet's growing, so are data farms. And we're finding all these new ways as well to make the rooms and the offices comfortable while also making, the cooling systems more efficient. I don't think, if anyone's tired of hearing about heat pump water heaters, I'm sorry.
We just don't have the bug yet. Ironically, next Thursday's show, we're actually going to be spending some time talking about the cooling solutions for data centers, particularly the new AI data centers that are generating tremendous amounts of heat. And we are HVAC and R. This is what we do. So we're trying to find the best solutions for moving that heat. And these heat pump solutions, heat pump water particularly, are primary solutions. So we're starting to look at moving these data centers into places that do need the heat, like you mentioned, like an agricultural. Like if I've got a data center that is generating a ton of heat and I have a greenhouse next door that would love to have that heat, I can now use my heat pump technology to put that heat into a media like water or glycol and just move it over to the building that needs it. And we're going to be starting to do a lot more of that, focusing on how we can use the least amount of energy to accomplish the comfort that we need. And heat pumps they're being introduced into systems that were so large, it blew my mind. Like some of these, multiple thousand BTU chillers that we utilized, or boilers in the past, hundreds of thousands of BTUs. And we're actually now doing these modular commercial industrial heat pump water heater solutions exactly like that module you're just showing. And now we're doing 20, 30, however many of them we need. We're just daisy chaining along the way, and we can do any capacity that we need to do. It's
And
mind-blowing.
what's nice about this is too, like, this can be updated and it can grow on our side. I can add to this whenever I want, and the link updates automatically. So if right now we have, the fully packaged and the custom built different delivery methods, but if we start showing, like you said, we want to have a special focus on just data centers, or a new version of the technologies. So in here we have Water Drop and we have Stephens. These are two, manufacturers that we've partnered with. But as it grows, it's so easy to integrate, more into these tours as well. And this is another example of these fully packaged systems. There's plenty of folks out there that are already ahead of this curve, realizing that this is definitely where we're going. And like you said, it's not even the beginning of figuring out all the different solutions. Every time we go to a new spot, I think, oh, it's going to be like the last one. They're doing this and they're doing that. And then we leave and we're like, I can't even believe they thought to do this. Or,
Right.
So it's really remarkable what these engineers are doing to kind of lead the way and to push it. This is the backside of that system. I really love this because talk about everything in one spot. You don't even need to have a storage tank beforehand for this to work for you as well.
And this is one course.
Yeah, this is definitely I'd say the definition of depth, right? Where like you could never deliver this much information without overwhelming somebody unless you utilized this style of delivery.
Yeah.
Right. Because it seems digestible. It's all nice and color coded too. So if you deep dive into system, next time you come back, you're like, okay, I remember I was in the green zone. I was looking at the systems. This alone right here is probably 2 hours. If you're really diving deep, reading it, checking out all the diagrams. And then once you have a healthy understanding of the system itself, then you can see how it's applied in different places, or you can make a distinction about what type of delivery method would be, useful for your particular scenario. And yeah, like I said, I think that this is the only way to deliver this much information in a way that isn't overwhelming. And you could find what you want too. Like, I know you're going to end up going back to this at some point to do some more exploring.
Tomorrow.
And, you don't have to scroll through all the pages. It's like, oh, I'm interested in that water drop. I hadn't seen that yet. Just go to delivery method, boom, boom, and it's there for you. Or more about the custom builds, right? This is another example right here. These are the Senko 2s being used in a way that's very residential in a commercial scenario, right? What you're seeing there is just directly outside of each condominium.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, but what's nice about this is that with that eco port, it tells you exactly how they're performing. We were able to find out that a tree fell on one of them just from energy efficiency.
From the data, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It sent an email. It caught an alarm. Hey, you're making really poor efficiency in this one area. And they look over like, oh, there's a tree on it. Because, if you're not there every single day, it's up to the resident to kind of let you know. But now with all this new technology, we don't have to wait for the resident to tell us that, you lost hundreds of dollars because this thing has been running inefficiently or because something's broken. We touched on it at part 1 as well. Another issue too is maintenance, right? Not every single maintenance person knows this new technology. If you're 30 years in the game, you're at this point a master. I mean, you can hear nuanced differences in something and know, oh, this needs to get maintenance, or this is going to go, I should check this. But then suddenly, your company comes to you and tells you we're upgrading to a new technology. It could be disheartening because you knew the other one like the back of your hand. But a tool like this, I send this to you a month before the installation, you can wrap your head around it quite easily with the existing technical information you have, right? Like the adult learners, we were talking about applying that previous knowledge to something new. And I'm confident they can wrap their head around it just through utilizing a tour like this.
I agree. When we think about why this show is successful, it really comes down to most of our viewers, you're right, are very experienced. They understand the fundamentals. They understand the technologies that they have grown up with. And when we introduce a new technology, they probably know 80% of that new technology already. It's that little bit, that extra 10 or 20% that they're uncomfortable with, that if they can learn how to master that little component, then when they see that technology for the first time, it already all makes sense because they were almost there. And so on our show, that's really what we do here is we try to help every educator, every contractor, every technician understand that as we introduce these technologies, there is going to be a learning curve, period. When we introduce new technologies into vehicles, there's a learning curve. First time I got power seats, I was like, whoa, check this out. Took me just a little bit to get comfortable with it. And after that, I don't even think about it anymore. So it'll be this similar thing when we start introducing new technologies. And if we can prepare ahead of time, if in the classroom we can introduce these technologies and show, okay, we knew this much. Here's the difference with the new technology. And by the way, here's what it looks like in its native environment. Here's how we selected this equipment. I mean, it's very universal education. I'm overly impressed.
Yeah, another thing too is I think that really approachability is the largest obstacle to anything new, right?
100%.
It's the mental block of, I don't know if I want that because it's new, because it's different, right? I would like to provide to you the QR code for anyone here watching that wants to explore this a little bit further.
Yeah.
Scan this with your phone, and you can go to that exact tour as well. It actually goes to a review version of it where you can leave comments on it if there's something that you like, something that you love.
Everyone,
Check
scan
that out
that
for sure.
right now. You need to go check this out for yourself and start getting an idea of the multitude of things that are now becoming available through DNR and through the HVACR Learning Network.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's such an exciting time to be part of the industry because, we're really making a significant difference in protecting these grids. It's an issue. The more technology we have, the more people are utilizing, their grids. And this is a way to make it more sustainable. This is a way to make everything a little bit more, efficient, but also to me, I think truly it's helping to make the world a little bit greener.
It's responsible.
That's a big push because not every single person can, get the EV car, but this is something that if we all can help push this market in the right direction, we could be part of, one of the next biggest innovations in efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I honestly, I feel like we are just years away from ditching copper line sets and going with PEX plumbing. And we're using an air-to-water heat pump in every application, whether it's industrial, commercial, residential. There's so many new business models to be thinking about. I look at that picture right there. Look, this one that has those 4 Senko CO2 units. I've had a contractor come up to me and go, well, I want to work on that thing right there. I'm like, why would you anyhow? You've only got 1 electrical connection and 2 water connections. That goes with you. Temporary goes in place. It just opens up so many avenues for us to think about efficiency and where our industry is going. And we are going to be going to this technology. 2 manufacturers I spent time with at AHR, both said that they have R290 versions of these for residential that they use in Europe right now that are just waiting for the US to be able to push through building codes. Every manufacturer had A2L air-to-water heat pumps for residential and commercial applications. Every single one of them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's a bunch of low GDP refrigerants coming, and they're right on the cusp. Some people already have them already. Of course, at AHR, we got to see quite a few stuff. That's the best thing about going to these conventions, too, is, we got to peek into things that are some things are 18 months away.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can see them, but especially, I really like I'm a visual learner. I'm an artist, a designer, walking around seeing all the PEX stuff too. It's like, this stuff is it's so much more convenient, plug and play. I remember my dad teaching me how to solder copper, and I was like, I'm going to be calling you for the rest of my life. Like, I'm not going to be doing this stuff, and now it's like, oh, click. I can do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, once again, that goes back to that approachability, right? It's like, we want people to feel comfortable really tackling some of these projects themselves, whether or not it's do-it-yourselfers or, it's the industry leaders, really, and use a little bit of our online classes. Let me go to some of our online on-demand trainings.
Yeah, very curious what else we can show people while they're here with us. And if you don't know what we're talking about, you need to come join us at our conference, because we're actually going to have manufacturers that's going to be discussing a variety of air to water solutions. And so, like Howard always mentions, like, you go to AHR to see what's coming out, and then you come to our conference to learn how to work on that and how to present it in the classrooms. And that's why we do this. There's people that when I start talking about these technologies go, oh, that's years down the road. I go, no, they're there now. Like, they're out in the industry. So we have to move our industry forward, and preparing students and preparing contractors and technicians for these technologies, those are in our lap.
And I love hearing Howard say that, because guess what we need to do now? We need to go capture one of those R410A installations for that exact reason. So, like I said, anything worth doing is worth capturing. So anyone out there that's installing any of these cutting edge technologies, reach out. We're the ones to capture it. And if you have some content that you're trying to amplify, this is another example of how to do it as well. So these are one of our online classes where everything's broken down, like I said, into those digestible chunks. This is the best practices for installation itself. We utilize some of that, content that was captured on site. And then, of course, what we like to do is it's a mixture of the videos. There's, of course, the transcript underneath it if you want to, what did they say? Go back and double check. And then there's quick quizzes at each section. The reason why we do this, twofold: engagement, but it also helps to make sure you do a self-assessment, know the answers to a question before you move on to the next section so you don't get lost. One of my big gripes with online learning is that you consume all the content and then there's just a big cumulative quiz at the end. And at that point, if you got lost or you misunderstood something, then you're in that frustrating scenario, right, where you're trying to take the quiz over and over and over again to get the score you need to get your actual certification. Where with this, it's little by little, and when you're done, all you need to do is review the content in a way that I think is really simple and broken down. And then this translates directly to that cumulative exam. And then ultimately, the Department of Energy skill recognition.
And we got to stop right there for a minute, because I've had a lot of classrooms asking about energy skilled. And that was another reason I wanted us to talk about this particular program, is as we start paying more attention to what energy skilled is, I'm going to be doing a whole class on what energy skilled recognition is and the programs that are offered through ESCO. And this is exactly one of the courses that we offer that's in this energy skilled recognition program. And so it's a 2-for-1 deal. Like, when you're doing a class, this is not just preparing a student for a certification, it's preparing them for a certification as well as a recognition through the Department of Energy on this type of training. Right, it goes through a rigorous application process to vet that it has a certain amount of curriculum that's covered it based on U.S. Department of Energy expectations. And the energy skilled recognition is an incredibly important thing to be looking for on your curriculum as you're introducing it into the classroom. So I just want to make sure that I covered that, because
absolutely. And it's so
asking, what is this?
Yeah, like you said, it's so multidimensional, because from our side as the educators, it means that we were held to a high standard on our content. There's a back and forth, a rubric. They scored it, they've sent it back. We made revisions, made sure that every aspect of what makes you an energy skilled recognized installer is in this course. And yeah, there's 2 parts to this. There's the residential installation, and there's also a sales course that shows you how to help guide your clients towards making these right decisions. And then when you're done with it, you have this certification that not only helps you to understand the technology, but they're also developing search engines for this stuff as well. So when someone's, in Palm Coast, Florida, Orlando, Florida, and they're looking, I want to make sure the person who's installing my stuff is energy skilled recognized. Well, guess what? Not only did you educate yourself, but you got to become a part of that elite group, and they can find you through there, because, there's nothing better than a referral. 92% of business is done through the referral. So it's very, very lucrative informative, exciting. I mean, it's everything for me.
You and I are going to have to do a commercial on this because, man, you got the line right there.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what I've been working on quite a bit as of recently. So yeah, absolutely. And also it's a I scratch your back, you scratch mine scenario, right? I have a lot to learn from you about this Restream app. This is phenomenal the way you're able to make everything seamless. I'm loving it. I think this is a great tool, not just for podcasting live, but also for doing trainings. So, as I learn a little bit from you, of course, I'd love to give you some additional promotional materials.
Yeah, this is a fantastic opportunity for you to start looking at new curriculum for your classroom. I encourage you to come hang out with us at our National HVACR Education Conference. David's going to be there. It's going to be a great time. But I encourage you, even if you can't make it, to reach out to D+R. Learn more about the solutions that they have for your classroom. And as contractors, we're starting to have a pretty significant following of contractors that are looking at the show going, I got to learn about what's coming out, and this is a great opportunity. These are ways to help prepare you as a contractor for the technologies that you're going to be getting requests for from your consumers. And what better way to sell a product than actually be able to see it in its habitat and be able to size and select it before you've even touched it. I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Anyone have any questions before we hop out of here? Yeah, absolutely. Definitely would love to see you all at the conference.
Yeah, if you see me, please stop by, say hi. I love to talk shop about technology, about education, design, any of it.
Absolutely. As you can tell, we really enjoy this, and we look forward to implementing this in the future. Yeah, all right, fantastic. I'll have both of you there for that.
Yep.
Yeah, so come on and see everyone at the D+R team, and we will see you there. And for those that want to learn about how we're using this technology, particularly in the commercial aspect, moving heat from these high-energy data centers, hop in next week. We're going to be spending time discussing how we move heat in those scenarios. So we appreciate you all joining us, and we'll see you all next week on Did You Know, the ESCO HVAC show. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.